Hello and welcome back to the Red Devils Den podcast. This podcast we talk all things Manchester United. And yes, we got a game coming up on Saturday against Brighton and Hove Albion. So we'll be talking a bit about that. We'll also be talking about the international break and how that went. So first of all, Apollo, what are your sort of thoughts on England and Maguire and Shaw specifically?
I think it was quite a good balance in the sense of they got a bit of game time to keep them sharp, but they didn't play every game 90 minutes. So it's not as if they haven't had a rest. Both Maguire and Shaw had a rest during this international break, so I'm kind of quite happy with that. They get 90 minutes in their legs to keep them sharp, but then they weren't overplayed to cause any issues. So I kind of feel like it went about as well as it could have done. And then obviously with Shaw getting an assist and Maguire getting a goal in the various games, it pretty much went as well as it could have done.
Yeah. Josh, did you have any thoughts on them?
I mean, Maguire was fantastic last night and against Albania. He clearly enjoys playing next to John Stones, and his goal was fantastic. It's interesting to see everybody, like, because I follow quite a lot of people who don't support Manchester United, and usually they retweet all the negative stuff about Harry Maguire because he seems to be like the butt of everyone's jokes, even though in the World Cup 2018, everyone was wanting him on the back of the £50 note. They wanted him with that picture of the Lilo. And yeah, it was good seeing everyone praise him last night, calling him Slabhead again. And obviously, it gives him confidence coming back to Manchester United. It was great to see Luke Shaw there and Jesse getting a bit of game time. So it was a good camp, really, for most of our players. I think that Tomini played all 3 games 90 minutes, which isn't the best for us. But I think Scotland didn't lose. I think they had 2 draws and a win, which is brilliant. Dan James scoring, Van der Beek scoring. So I think all in all, it's been probably a positive international break, apart from Martial getting injured. But some people might see that as a positive, to be fair.
Yeah. And I know Apollo, me and Josh are the only ones who really watch a lot of international football, so I won't really go too much into other stuff with the rest of you. But I just wanted Dan's thoughts on. I know he probably saw James's goal. Do you think that'll do a lot for his confidence? Do you think you sort of kick on and be a starter in the future?
I thought it was a fantastic goal. I have to admit, it did make me laugh just because sort of his stature, and he's just sort of coming at the back post and the bullet headed into the bottom corner. I thought it was brilliant. It was really good. Someone pointed out to me he had a similar one against Milan. I think it was Bruno put a ball into him, and keeper ended up saving it.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of part of his game that I never really personally noticed until his goal the other night. And then obviously someone mentioned the one against Milan. So if you can add that into his game, that'll be excellent. And that'll do, wonders for his confidence going forward. And he's already kicked on a lot since the sort of bad patch he went through anyway, which is excellent. Another good thing about the international break is the amount of rest that Bruno got. I don't think in the games that he played, I don't think he played a full 90, did he? I'm not 100% sure on that. And obviously he didn't play the final game and came back to Manchester early, which is obviously brilliant for us because he has looked a little bit burnt out at times. So I actually think the international break came at a good time. I mean, I know everyone before was saying, it's terrible for the players and it shouldn't have happened. And in fairness, it shouldn't, given the state of the world at the moment. But in terms of our players, getting rest and being around a different camp, will sometimes be good for the mind. And England won all 3 games, which is excellent for confidence. Bruno got a rest, and James got a goal, Shaw got an assist. So as Josh said, I don't think it could have went any better.
We between us, we accidentally left out one player. So Pogba had a really good international break as well, in the sense of I think Deschamps said at the start that he wasn't fit to start the game, so he didn't start the first game. He got a cameo off the bench. They built up his game time, and then he played the full 90 in the last game. So he should be coming back to us fitter than he left.
Yeah, that's a big positive as well. And I know I watched well, Donny van de Beek actually got a goal as well, which I'm not sure we mentioned, but that's going to be, quite big for him as well. Also, I watched Daniel James play 90 minutes for Wales. Thought he was really good. Obviously got that goal, which obviously Dan mentioned. In the first game, he didn't do that much, but he didn't get that much of the ball either. But he was sort of positive with it. In the second game, I don't think he played that well in the second game either, but he got the goal, which is all that matters at the end of the day. But I thought he was fairly positive in that, worked really hard. Also, Dylan Levitt actually got 45 minutes for Wales against Mexico in a friendly. I know probably most of you didn't watch that, so he was all right. I mean, he barely got the ball at all. I swear he had like 10 touches, but he was positive, and he had one shot from outside the box, which wasn't that far away. But yeah, that's sort of all the input that I can give, and you lot can probably give as well.
Do you know who didn't have a good international break? Our goalkeepers.
Yeah,
Dean
I was just
and
about to
David,
say.
for all 3 games, they were on the bench for all 3 games.
Yeah.
I think Pope started all 3 for England, and I think was it Simon who started for Spain. So that was quite surprising for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to add, if we're done on the international break, we didn't mention it at the start. We probably should have. RIP to Juan Mata's mum. That happened over the international break, which was heartbreaking to hear. And he's, as we all probably agree, he's the nicest man in football, as many people say. So it was nice to see his teammates rally around him and the supporters too. So hopefully he's okay and he comes back to training soon.
Yeah, Absolutely. for sure. But yeah, sort of moving off the international break. I wanted to get thoughts on the Pogba situation. It's quite controversial. I know Romano has come out and said Pogba wants to leave, but United resurgent. What are your sort of thoughts on Pogba's situation? Obviously, we know that sort of positive towards it. I know we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, so we won't go into too much depth, but go on.
Yeah, so it wasn't just the quotes from Fabrizio Romano. Gianluca Di Marzio also came out, was doing an interview on Italian television. I think it was with a Juventus fan, and he mentioned that Juventus is Pogba's preferred destination. We know that Di Marzio isn't what he was in terms of reliability, and he does get stuff wrong occasionally. But from what I've seen with other reporting, it does seem like Juventus want Pogba and Pogba wants Juventus. It's just a question of finance at this point. And so the other thing that could be interesting is Andrea Pirlo's job is not necessarily the safest right now. And Zidane wants Pogba, but Florentino Perez doesn't at Real Madrid. And we could see Zidane leave Real in the summer. And he's obviously played for Juventus as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Zidane replace Pirlo. And then you've got the club and the manager both desperately want Paul Pogba. So either way, though, I think no matter who the manager is, Juventus will be pursuing Paul Pogba in the summer. And he's got a year left on his contract and he doesn't want to stay. It almost doesn't even matter how we feel about him. You can't keep a player who says, I'm not going to sign a new deal and I've got 1 year left. You take the most money you can for him and then you try to find another player. That's just a simple fact of the matter. There's not really another approach. United can't just say, okay, we're going to take Pogba on a 1 year rental for £40 million, which is basically what you would be doing if you said, okay, let's just keep him until he goes on a Bosman. So he's got to go, and we got to take the highest bid from whichever club it comes from. Obviously not Man City or Liverpool, but outside the Premier League, the highest bidder gets Paul Pogba, and that's the way it should be. And you guys know that I'm not the biggest Paul Pogba fan in the world. I think he gets injured too much. I think he over at times can be, let's say, not the most industrious with his tracking back. I think that he's not necessarily a tactical fit in the system while he plays. So I also don't think his focus on superficial things like his hairstyles and his dancing, not to sound too much like Graham Souness, is necessarily the best influence on the younger players. And so for me, I'm very happy to see the back of Paul Pogba. I know that he's a quality player, but that's a price I'm willing to pay, and I'm happy to go ahead and bring in a replacement. There's plenty out there. Florian Neuhaus, Fabian Ruiz, among others. So for me, it's not a question of if Paul Pogba goes; it's a question of when Paul Pogba goes.
All right. That's the interesting one you mentioned that you don't think the his style and stuff like that has a good effect on the younger players. Vin, what was your thoughts on that?
Sorry, just 1 second, Vin. I just wanted to clarify on that. I'm not trying to say that it makes him a worse player. I'm just trying to say that I personally, and again, this is personally, prefer my players to have the attitude that Aaron Wan-Bissaka has, Scott McTominay has, Roy Keane had in his playing career, Marcus Rashford has. Focus on your football, focus on good social change in the world. Don't necessarily focus on things that gratify or glorify you. It's a little bit egocentric for my personal taste, but again, I'm not saying that is going to be everyone's opinion.
Yeah, I don't understand what the thing is with Raiola and Pogba, the duo themselves. It's like every 6 months one of them has to just come out and say, "Oh, I want to leave," or "My client wants to leave." Like every 6 months. Like we saw the same thing before the game against Leipzig. That was 6 months ago, and it's happened again. 6 months before that, I think it was Pogba himself who sort of gave cryptic quotes about him. He'll see whether he'll decide whether he wants to stay at United. Maybe he's happy, he's unhappy. So it's like every 6 months it's like a cycle which happens again and again and again, and it's becoming really tiring for me right now, honestly. Like, and I said this before as well when Raiola came out before the game against Leipzig, and he said that Pogba wants to leave. I said at that time, and I'll say it now as well. I wouldn't be sad if he goes. Like, yes, he's a talented player. Yes, he's quality, no doubt about it. But he's not the only one. Like the surgeon said, there are many out there whom we could get for either the same price or less. Like Neuhaus and Kamavinga, Sabitzer, and who else? Who not? So, and if it means that Raiola is away from Manchester United, that makes me happy, honestly, because I don't want him linked with us ever again. And I know there's Haaland, obviously. And that's a tricky situation to leave it because Haaland is someone whom we really want, Solskjaer really wants, but then you got Raiola as his client, so he's going to extort the hell out of you in terms of transfer fees and agent fees. So that's something that we need to really sort of look at. It's a tricky path, but in regards to Pogba, well, like I said, I wouldn't be too upset if he leaves. Honestly, like you said, Reese, he's been a bit inconsistent. He's been injured every now and then. He's shown glimpses of form, but again, he hasn't been able to keep that up over the course of 4, 5, 6 months. And it's always been like these 2, 3 month spells recently in the past couple of years where he's shown what he can do, but then he gets injured again, stays out for another month or two. So yeah, it's just becoming really inconsistent. It's becoming really tiring, honest.
Yeah, fair enough. So United Apollo, can you sort of build on that at all? And what are there any midfielders in mind that you would sort of want to replace him with? Assuming he does leave.
I completely agree with the general sentiments of the other two that just he wants to leave, let him go. That he's not irreplaceable. Obviously we need to replace him. We can't just make do with what we've got. But there are players out there that you can get. Bring one of them in who actually wants to be here, and we'll be absolutely fine. I think we just need to go our separate ways this summer, let him go, and start fresh. And then as for specific replacements, I really like the idea of Neuhaus. I don't think he would be that expensive either, and I think he's quite a good fit for what we want. We want that progressive midfielder who's comfortable playing in the pivot, and he kind of fits that bill.
Yeah, fair. So, Josh, do you have anyone in mind in terms of replacements?
I think I'm just going to speak on the Pogba situation generally before I go into replacements, because I think a lot of United fans or Pogba fans live in this weird paroxysm that he is irreplaceable, that he is the best midfielder in the world, that he drops 8 out of 10s every single week. That's not the situation. Maybe in 2018, in the 17-18 season, we couldn't afford to lose him because he was our biggest provider in terms of goals and assists. And we were petrified of losing him when we heard the rumours that he was offered to Man City. I think it was like January of 2018, towards the end of Mourinho's time. I might be getting the dates wrong, I'm not sure. But he is replaceable now. We are in the perfect situation to replace him. My only worry is in a COVID market, I think we need a midfield upgrade now anyway. If Pogba leaves, I think that requires us to sign 2 midfielders. We all want Declan Rice. We need to sign somebody who can progress the ball better in midfield, which Declan Rice can do. But I think we need somebody who's a bit more of a linker. I'll be honest, I've not watched House much. I like the way he looks. That's it. He has a good hairstyle, like McTominay with his little straight cut. T. Elmans, I said last on the last podcast, he would be my probably my first choice, just because I watch him probably more than anybody, like isn't more than any of the other midfielders that we're linked to. I remember a couple of years ago, Rio Ferdinand really wanted us to sign Fabian Ruiz from Napoli. Maybe he's a choice. Saul apparently is going to be cheap. I'm not sure. He's not irreplaceable, and there's definitely midfielders on the market. It's just, can we do it in this current market? I'm not sure.
You know, just on that real quick, when people used to say, who would you replace Paul Pogba with, my default answer has always been Florian Neuhaus. But over the international break, I've been watching more and more and looking into the stats behind Fabian Ruiz more. And, you know, his creativity, honestly, is as good as Paul Pogba's. Like, Neuhaus is a little bit of a step down creatively, but offers you a little bit more industry. Ruiz is just as creative as Pogba. And he brings a lot of similar characteristics. He's also a good fit for us in the sense that he's prepared to play as the second creator. At Napoli, he tends to play behind Piotr Zielinski. So he's not someone who's going to be adapting to the system. It's similar for Neuhaus at Gladbach as well, where he's playing with Stindl in front of him usually, or Hoffman. But, you know, these are both players who are well suited to our system. And in Ruiz's case, is exceptionally creative from midfield and good at pressing, like Fred. So he's almost like Fred with extra creativity, although not quite as much of a presser. And then the other benefit of Fabian Ruiz, well, I shouldn't say benefit, but it's a little bit of a, you know, we've seen with Timo Werner and Kai Havertz recently that the Bundesliga, with the spaces that defenses tend to leave in behind, can over-exaggerate a player's attacking qualities a little bit. But the beauty of having seen Fabian Ruiz do it in Serie A is Italian defenses, while they're getting more progressive now, a lot of teams still do play with a low block. And so, you know, that we kind of have that model, and we've seen it from Ruiz. And he would cost more, but Napoli don't look like they're necessarily going to qualify for the Champions League this season. That'll be 2 years out of it for them. And I could see them taking 50, 60 million, kind of a little bit what we're going to get for Paul Pogba, maybe 5-10 million more, and letting him go. And I think he could be a fantastic fit for us. Neuhaus has been linked with Liverpool as well, but I haven't seen Ruiz linked with any other English clubs. The only teams I've seen him linked with are Real, Barca, and Atletico, and I don't know where their finances are with the pandemic, so it could be a more open lane, and he could be a better fit, honestly. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a name to definitely keep an eye out for.
Okay, good insight. And lastly, we haven't had Dan's thoughts on the Pogba situation, so I don't really want to leave him out. What do you think?
Just sort of building off what Josh said, you know, these sort of Pogba fans live in a world where they think that he drops 8s and 9s out of 10s every week. It's simply not the case, you know. And with Paul Pogba specifically, is all the conversation is always what he can do. It's never what he is doing. And like he said, in that 17-18 season, he dropped some 10 out of 10 performances. You know, the comeback against City, the 3-2 game, excellent. And he is a world-class midfielder, but he just doesn't do it every week. And, you know, for me, I would happily swap, say a defensive midfielder that gives you a 7, 8 out of 10 every single week for an inconsistent, injury-prone Paul Pogba, personally. You know, and then every international break, the sort of machinations that him and Raiola come up with him, it just tires me. It's the last thing that you want. I mean, when the club football gone anyway, and given the fact there's no sort of club games to sort of shake off when you do receive bad news, for them to drop things like, oh, Pogba's not extending his contract, he's not happy, it just sort of sours the mood around the club anyway. And it's sort of when there's not a game to sort of shake off this bad news and bring sort of good energy back. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Pogba. As Resurgence said, he can go to the highest bid of this summer. It's sort of, if we get anywhere between 40-50 million for him with a year on his contract, I think everyone could be happy with that. I mean, it's either that or let him run down. We lose him on a free again, which I don't think the club will have any interest in doing whatsoever. So as far as a replacement, as I mentioned on the last pod, I really like Wilfred Ndidi as a pure defensive midfielder. I think we can sort of shape the midfield around that. And I love Declan Rice as well. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Pogba situation.
See, that's interesting. You would replace Paul Pogba with a defensive midfielder. I mean, I'm assuming here that we're only signing one midfielder this summer. So then where would you outsource that creativity to? Are you looking to then bring in Sancho to kind of cover that? Or because without Pogba in the midfield pivot, we're going to lose some creativity, obviously.
Yeah, this is my. I thought if we do bring in, say, a Wilfred Ndidi as a pure defensive midfielder, I quite like the idea of playing two advanced states in Bruno and Van der Beek. I do like that, and then obviously in a game where we do need a bit more defensive stability, you've always got McFred, yeah, reliable McFred, and then my perfect window would either be like Varane, for instance, Rice or Ndidi, and a Jadon Sancho. So you sort of, yes, you're losing Pogba's creativity and his sort of amazing skill set. He can do a bit of everything. But then again, you're bringing in personnel fit for the roles. If you understand what I mean, like you take Pogba out, but then you start in Ndidi in, so you can sort of build the midfield around that and play a more attacking-minded midfield because you've got a constant screen across the back four anyway. And then we all know what Jadon Sancho can do creativity-wise. Yeah, that's what I'd do personally if I was in charge of the money.
That's a fantastic set of signings. The only problem is I don't think our finances are going to allow for 3 big buys on that level. 1, maybe 2 if Pogba and Lingard go, but I can't see all 3.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, obviously we've spoken about Saul Niguez, Floriano House. There's also been talks of Fabian Ruiz as well. All great players. They've got really good potential. But for me, my number one replacement for Pogba would be, it's an old name that's been linked to United. It's Sergej Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio.
I thought you were going to say Nico Gaitan there for a minute when you said an old name that's been linked to United. He's been retired at this point.
Nah, not that old. I mean, he's 26 years old.
Still on the plane.
Yeah, right. So he's 26 years old, 24 games this season, 6 goals and 9 assists. So I think he's had a fairly decent season. He's going to cost you about 60. His market value 63, so I would say 65, 70 plus having had Andres Pereira at Lazio on loan. So that's something that we could sort of work around it, maybe cut 5 to 10 million off that. Contract expires in 2024. So, I mean, given that, I think that seems like a fair price. So he would be like my ideal replacement for Pogba. He obviously one of his preferred positions is an attacking midfielder as well. So he's got that creative spark, and I think it's a like-for-like replacement.
Can I just jump in after that, if that's okay? I am as the surgeon just touched on before. I am really worried about the summer because we have to upgrade our midfield. There's no question about that because we don't progress the ball enough. That might be able to be done on the training pitch. You never know. We have to have more creativity from the wide right area, which is why we all want Sancho. And we all seem to think we need a central defender. That's actually starting to go lower in my priorities until we lose 1-0 to Wolves next season from a Conor Cody header. I am really worried because it seems like we have a lot to do in little time with not a lot of money. So it's going to be a frustrating summer. We have to be patient, and it's going to go down the same pecking order. Everyone will forget about the Glazers. They'll probably put a tweet about it. everyone will forget about Woodward eventually, even though they will tweet a lot about it. It'll then fall on John Murtaugh's head and Darren Fletcher. But eventually, everyone's just going to blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer yet again for the board's failures. And I'm saying failures now because I know it's going to happen this summer. Last summer, I had a bit of hope. I thought, oh, Gary Neville seems buzzing. He might have heard from Solskjaer that we're going to take advantage of the COVID market. Now we look like we're actually falling behind, and Chelsea and City and Liverpool seem to be stitching signings up already. So I am really, really worried. I don't know about anybody else, but
I think you've left out one of the crucial pieces that I think the club are looking at, and I personally agree with, and a lot of fans tend to leave this out. We need a striker. We have one who can't stay fit because he's 34 years old. We kind of expected that when we signed him. And we've got one who basically is a winger playing out of position. And so that's definitely an urgent need. For me, it's higher on the list than many of the positions you said. And it's one that I think the club will be looking to spend a lot of their money on this summer. And when you add that in on top of the positions you already said, we know that we're in for a difficult summer. And I think, honestly, at this point, most people who are looking at this realistically have to admit to themselves, we need about 5 positions. We're going to get 2, maybe 3 this summer. And it's going to have to be 2 or 3 in the summer of 2022.
Okay, so on to the next sort of thing that we're going to be talking about. At GGMU4231 asked on Twitter, what are some things that Ole can actually improve on as a manager? So I'm going to go to United Apollo first on this. What do you think?
The biggest thing for me is the set piece defending. I'm really not a fan of zonal marking. I don't think it's that effective. I would say, in fairness to Ole, that the schedule doesn't exactly make it easy to tweak things and implement new systems because we really don't have a lot of time to train. But I would have hoped that at some point over the season, we might have had some time to work on it. And if we go into next season with zonal marking, I think he's really missed the trick there. I think we'd be a lot better off in the long run with man marking at set pieces. So I have a little bit of understanding of the situation with the training, but if we go into next season when we've had a pre-season, we're still using zonal marking, I think Ole's made a mistake there.
We've been doing it since he came in, though, is the thing. So I look at it and I wonder, does he not want to change it, is the thing. And I agree with you. The zonal marking is definitely a problem, and he needs a set piece coach and just go man to man and solve this. Reminds me too much of Rafa Benitez's Liverpool the way it is right now, but I don't think he actually wants to change it, is the sad part.
Which would be a mistake if he doesn't want to change it.
So, Vin, have you sort of got anything to add to that, or any other ideas on it?
Yeah, just for that set piece thing. I really think we need to get in like a defensive specialist coach. I feel we don't have one currently in our coaching ranks. I mean, the likes of Carrick, McKenna, Fletcher. Granted, Carrick was like a defensive midfielder during his playing days, so he can sort of do like the basics of defending. But when it comes to set piece defending and zonal marking and all those aspects, I really feel we don't have like a specialist coach. I think having that one would really help the likes of Maguire and Lindelof and McTominay and even like goalkeepers, even David De Gea, for example. I think they could benefit a lot from that. So I think it's Patrice Evra who's going through his coaching badges. And I mean, he's been a defender, so he knows what it's like to defend set pieces, one-on-ones. Also, the most important thing is maintaining your lines. Far too often this season, we've seen that we haven't been able to maintain our lines especially when playing a high line and playing out the offside traps. Well, we managed to do that on most occasions. There are a few that have costed us. So I think with regards to that, I think having someone like Evra in our coaching ranks would be a pretty good addition.
What makes it stand out even more as well is that we also have Ole for the forwards. So we have all the midfield coaches. We have Ole for the strikers, but we really don't have. That's the one area we haven't got.
Did Mick
So-
Phelan play in defense at times during his career? Someone correct me on that.
No, I think he played midfield. I tried checking up. Phelan played as a midfielder. I think again he was like more of a defensive midfielder or slash a general central midfielder. Fletcher was that. Carrick was the most defensive of the lot, you could say, and McKenna I think was more on the attacking side.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. So I'm conscious not all of you will have something new to add. So is there anything else any of you want to talk about in relation to what Ollie can improve on? Go on, Josh.
I've spoke about this before actually on when we've suffered some big not big defeats but big game defeats. I think we could do with a technical coach. René Mullenstein filled that role when he was under Sir Alex Ferguson. I think Moyes' biggest mistake was getting rid of Mullenstein and Phelan on the same day. Both wanted to stay and oversee the new project. The way some of our players receive passes or even pass the ball is a bit off. I've seen United Arena tweet about this a few times. I think we need, I don't know how to phrase it in an appropriate way, but some foreign coaching. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. And Mullenstein brings a more international brand of coaching. He's got, the Dutch way of playing, which is what everyone seems to love to do. He knows the club, and it's always been a dream of mine that Ollie brought Mullenstein back to the club as well as Phelan too. I remember last season when we were really, really struggling, there was then reports of the players not responding to McKenna, and that seems to have gone away. I don't know what the current situation is there, that he was working them too hard in training almost. But yeah, definitely a technical coach needed to work with people like Aaron Wan-Bissaka one-on-one, to work with Mason Greenwood one-on-one, which Ollie is obviously doing, but in a more technical kind of way. And you need a pre-season with that, which we haven't had last season. So we don't really know where our coaching is currently at, because we did change a few things. Darren Fletcher's come in, Carrick's another year more experienced as a coach, McKenna more experience with Ollie and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see how things are after a good pre-season. But yeah, set piece coach definitely. But I would go with a technical coach too.
Are you seeing someone like Queiroz?
Damn it, Vin, you're stealing my point now.
I'll let Resurgent speak about Queiroz, but I noticed you mentioned Evra, and I wouldn't be a big fan of that at all, to be fair. I don't like the way he comes across when he's doing punditry work. He actually annoys me quite a bit when he's doing his punditry work. He gets very personal, which I don't agree with.
You can tell he has clear favoritism for the French players as well.
100%. And he seems to really dislike Harry Maguire and even Rashford at times. He makes comments about Maguire being captain and even little comments about Rashford, which I didn't enjoy. And he obviously always favours Pogba and whatnot. So yeah, he loves this game and he's funny, but not going to be my coach, not my coach, no.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion because I remember I came across the news that he was earning his coaching badges. But I mean, if there's someone who's more technical, who's more professional, then definitely get him in.
What's Nemanja Vidic up to?
I think he has done his coaching badges, Vidic. I think so.
That'd be unbelievable.
That would be amazing, yeah.
So good.
And he's very intelligent. Anthony Barry, who went to Chelsea, completely changed the set pieces and the way they defend too. They've been pretty solid, to be fair, Chelsea this year defensively. He was going to leave when Lampard was leaving, but Tuchel convinced him to stay. So Tuchel's a great coach, so he obviously must rate him highly. So yeah, I think there is something that we can change there, and hopefully we do. Other than that, I think he could do with a full head of hair dye, because he's got one part grey, one part black, and I would improve that.
Like you would know. Yeah, was there anything else anyone wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So,
go on.
yeah, so like I was saying, Carlos Queiroz was going to be my main thing. Before I was going to talk about the zonal marking, Apollo got that. I was going to talk about the set piece coaching, that's been covered. But for me, definitely Carlos Queiroz is somebody I would look to bring in. It was a critique I had during the later years under Sir Alex Ferguson as well. I think having a strong number 2 there who's not afraid to challenge the manager on his tactics or to say, I have a better plan, is something that can be beneficial at times, especially when the number 1, even Sir Alex for this in this case, or Ollie, is not necessarily a tactical mastermind, more of a man manager. In those situations, having that tactical guy who's a little bit more standoffish as your number 2 can be beneficial. And I think Queiroz left his role as the Colombia manager at the end of 2020, so he's available, and I'd love to have him back, even if it's just short term, to kind of provide a sounding board for Ollie with some of these ideas. I noticed our best successes in Europe came when Carlos Queiroz was at the club. If you look at it, we basically had or I shouldn't say our best successes in Europe necessarily, just our successes in general. In the mid 2000s, when he left to take the Real Madrid job, that was around the time we ended up rebuilding with Rooney and Ronaldo coming in. We had 2 or 3 years kind of on a little bit of a downward trend at that point. Since he left, then our progression in the Champions League fell short. I know a lot of people like to critique Ollie for us ending up in the Europa League this year, but I don't think we can forget that under Sir Alex, we ended up in the Europa League. And I think it's the 2011-12 season. That's when we ended up playing Ander Herrera's Athletic Bilbao in the Europa League round of 32, where Bielsa was in charge. So I think a tactical sounding board would be good. And the other thing is, I think the most obvious one thing that we're all thinking, which is Ollie needs to realize, or someone needs to tell him, I guess, it's not against the rules to make a substitution before the 70th minute. You are allowed to do that in the game. You can do it anytime you want, actually. It's amazing. So I think, pulling those substitutions back, acting more promptly, halftime, 55th minute, 62nd minute, whatever. So that's what I'd like to see, those 2 changes moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. Josh, go on.
A lot of the players say the same thing as Resurgent from that era. I think Ferdinand said it, Evra said it, even Roy Keane, who absolutely threw pelters at him on ITV one time and then said, but he was a great coach. Ferdinand said we were tactically not as good when he left. So that would be interesting. I think he's probably more interested in the first team role as manager, but don't underestimate what a good assistant can do. I mean, we've seen Pep Guardiola, he's changed his coaching staff this year and they've been excellent. When Liverpool's assistant, I think his name was Buvac, left Klopp, everyone was like, he was the brains. He got Pep Linders in and Liverpool just flew from there. So a good coaching team and a good assistant can completely change the fortunes of a club. And I think we're obviously a few players away, but I think we're just that one tiny bit in the backroom staff away from being a much better team.
Sort of further accentuate the point that Josh just made about how important number 2 left. I think the most obvious from like the public eye was when Mourinho's long time number 2 was Rui Faria. Yeah. When he left, I think it was so obvious. I mean, there was a time around then where results were awful, and his teams. I mean, they play football anyway, but he just seemed to not know, what he was doing a lot of the time. And I think that was the most obvious that I've ever seen from just being a fan of football and not reading any interviews or hearing anything from ex-players, but just sort of watching before and after Rui Faria left. It definitely affected Mourinho, and it definitely affected his side.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, absolutely right about Mourinho. I think I remember two reasons why Mourinho sort of faltered the way he did at United. One was because of the transfer market, where he wasn't backed by the board and by the Glazers, and the second reason was Rui Faria left that same summer.
You're forgetting one reason, Vin. He's an insufferable piece of human garbage. That was the one that you're missing.
That's the third reason. But I'm just saying those are two big factors which contributed to him being that insufferable piece of shit or whatever you want to call it.
That same guy at Chelsea, the same guy at Real Madrid. It ends that way in tears. Rui Faria or
But
not,
I'm just saying it was a lot more worse this time around because one of the reasons was that Faria wasn't there to sort of like calm him
it
down
made it
and sort
worse.
of assure him.
I'm not disagreeing with your reasons. I'm just saying we can't excuse Jose Mourinho. That's who he is. You know, it's one of those things where you peel back an onion and under every layer of douchebag, there's more douchebag. So you just have to be cautious of that with Mourinho.
Yeah.
You can't blame the externality.
Yeah, no, but I agree with all of that. I'm just saying it's like one of the reasons. Like it's just to highlight how important number 2 can be for like a manager.
One small gripe that I do have with Ole, if we're still on that subject, is we all know how much of a fantastic manager he is and how he can improve players purely from psychological work with them and just sort of putting an arm around the shoulder. But I think sometimes it sort of crosses the line with the over loyalty to some players, especially with David De Gea. You know, and Anthony Martial recently as well. I think he gives players a way too much time to try and play their way into form. And with De Gea probably being the best example, there's been times where he started him when he's not been in good form, and he's costing us. He keeps costing us points, but he keeps starting him. He keeps putting his faith in him, and mistakes are happening. Keeps costing us points, and he keeps starting him. And I know now, obviously, with De Gea sort of being out and Dean Henderson sort of come in, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think it's fairly obvious that asking it enough break, De Gea is going to come back in because we know that Solskjaer loves him and he has got a lot of loyalty with De Gea. But sort of next time a mistake inevitably happens, given that De Gea is not the keeper he was, it'd just be interesting to see what happens after that, because that is one small gripe that I do have with Ole, that he gives players way too much time to sort of play their way into form before dropping them.
While we're on that subject of the De Gea Henderson example, I have a question for you guys then. So even if, whether you think it would happen or not, even if Ole plays Henderson as the number 1 for the rest of the season, with the notion that he wants to move De Gea on this summer, do you not have to play him a little bit to try and like showcase a potential buyer what he can do? Do you not, or can you just leave him on the bench for the rest of the season and expect to find a buyer?
Well, perhaps like Henderson and De Gea could swap roles, rather than sort of Henderson being a cup keeper. I know he got the Europa League left. You give it to De Gea and let Henderson play in the Premier League, so they essentially swap roles, I guess. It's probably not what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to do, but if you wanted to, sort of put him in a shop window, as it were, like he did with Jesse in the Europa League, you could perhaps do that.
Yeah, that would be one way of handling it. Or, honestly, I think at this point, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's not like he's Phil Jones where he hasn't played in 18 months. People who want to buy David De Gea will know how he's been from September up until now. It's not as though he hasn't played, right? So I think that it's one of those situations where it's kind of the manager's choice. There's an argument, actually, that being the Europa League keeper is being the number 1 keeper right now for the rest of the season, because that's kind of the only thing that matters for us, right? We're not going to miss out on top 4 given where we are, unless something catastrophic happens. So really our season is about trying to win the Europa League. And I think at this point, Dean Henderson would be better suited for that job. And so that would be one reason to do that. But psychologically, I do think there's a huge benefit in just saying, okay, you know what, we're going to switch them, like Dan was saying, and just say, okay, we're going to make Dean the number 1 goalkeeper in name, the league keeper, and then that kind of signals what's going to happen next season, hopefully.
Yeah, obviously, like I agree with Apollo's point to an extent that to show potential suitors of what he can do at this stage. Obviously, you've got examples in the past where he's been absolutely brilliant, but off late we've seen that he's made some howlers, he's made some gaffes, right? So I agree with Apollo's point that you got to play him a bit just to show potential suitors, someone like a PSG, to say that okay, you know what, this is what he can still do, and so if you're still interested, you can make a deal and all of that. But again, I agree with the surgeon's point as well that the Europa League is what we need to win right now. that the Europa League is what we need to win right now. And I personally feel more comfortable watching Henderson in goal rather than David De Gea for that. And the Premier League, well, the two of them can shuffle. Ideally, you would sort of like rotate between them, like give Henderson a run of like four. I think what 10 games are left in the season to go. What's it? 9, 10 games left in the season, I
9.
guess. Yeah, so just like give Henderson a run for like the upcoming 3, 4 games, and then give David the run for the rest of the season in the Premier League. But for the Europa League, it has to be Henderson for me. So that's something that I would ideally do. But yeah, I do agree that David De Gea does need to play a bit. And just also to build up on that, one of the faint criticisms I feel that I have about Ole is sometimes he doesn't rotate well enough. We've seen that in almost every game, it's either Rashford who has to start, or Bruno, or sometimes both. Like the Sociedad game was a really good example, where in the second leg we were 4-0 up. There was no need, I feel, to sort of start Bruno, and yet he did, even though he played for 45 minutes, he did. You could have given time to someone like a Juan Mata. I'm not sure if he was available for that game, but if he
He
wasn't,
No,
he wasn't, right? Was Van der Beek available as well?
no. If I remember right, there wasn't actually another at number 10. But I was sort of suggesting that at the time he could have played Martial there because he's got a good touch and stuff like that. But
Arguably
Yeah,
could have
so
given
yeah, just
Ahmad or
like
Torreira
generally.
some minutes, given that we're 4-0 up.
Yeah,
mm,
exactly. Just give some of the bench players a minute. It's like you could start Brandon Williams, or you could start someone like Zebe. I haven't seen Zebe getting game time in a long time. So that game was a perfect example for him. It was a perfect situation for him to get some minutes in. I'm not sure what the situation is with him. But again,
Yeah.
that's just one of my faint criticisms. I mean, obviously, with like you get new players in with a with a much fitter squad, when you have the whole roster available to yourselves, I think we should expect to see him rotate a bit more. But yeah, it's just sometimes I feel that there's a bit of extra loyalty towards some of the
It's
players.
kind of funny that you say that. Dan was saying something similar earlier, that he waits a long time before dropping players. But then when he does drop them, what I've seen is he drops them so that we see them once a year after that. He doesn't go from, okay, you're playing every match to, okay, you're going to play every other match.
Yeah,
It seems to be once you lose all his trust, you get locked in the basement. We've
Mm.
seen We've seen
true.
that happen with Jesse Lingard. We've seen it happen with Andres Pereira, Phil Jones. I remember when Ollie came in, Phil Jones was starting like every match.
Yeah,
He dropped Smalling and was playing Phil Jones. And then Phil Jones gets dropped, and now we've seen Phil Jones twice in 3 years. So Brandon Williams and Axel Tuanzebe went from, touted as the next starters in this team.
yeah.
They can't get a game.
I
I
mean,
think
I don't
on
know
Tuanzebe
what the
though, with
situation is over there.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
You're saying, Dan?
I was going to say on Tuanzebe specifically, I think with the sort of racist abuse he received online, I think Ollie has sort of taken it upon himself to sort of bring him out of the squad and sort of take the heat off him a bit. And I think that worked really well with when Mason had all that stuff go on when he was in the England squad and all that stuff going on with Phil Foden. He took him out of the squad for a while, and I think it seemed to work and get him back on the right track. And I think he might be doing the same thing with Tuanzebe as well.
Maybe, but then why is Brandon Williams not getting in the team when we're 4-0 up? Aaron Wan-Bissaka is starting all of a sudden. You have a backup right back in Brandon Williams. I don't know why we're not using him. Especially, I understand that he's not as good as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but you can use him when we're 4-0 up in the second leg.
yeah, I don't think I can agree with that. Sometimes I think you need that certain players because the backup and the squad depth just isn't quite there. And he's thinking, we're at Manchester United, we can't lose this game. It doesn't matter what game it is. But yeah, even against Real Sociedad, I don't think Bruno had to start. I don't think Aaron Wan-Bissaka had to start. But then again, we didn't exactly have a good start. I mean, Sociedad were sort of all over us in the first half an hour without Wan-Bissaka. If it was Williams there instead, and if it was Tuanzebe instead of, Maguire, did Maguire start? I don't know. But if the same quality wasn't there, maybe they would have scored, and then they would have scored another and another. So you never know. That's sort of my attempt to defend him. But yeah, I totally get that. Go on.
Can I just add? without Bruno and Rashford, if they don't start, what game have we played well? I'm not really sure. So they have to start basically every game because our standards just drop dramatically. Obviously, because we play a certain way. So if Van der Beek comes in, he's not used to it. He's more of a deft touch kind of player. Mata, when in the early parts of the season, he looked really like he was going to have a good season. Obviously, been injured and his personal problems in this year. So it's interesting because when they don't start, I think West Ham, when we went 1-0 down and we were horrific in that first half until them two came on. It's always an issue when they don't play. We don't look as good. And it's funny we're saying, "Oh, wish we rest Bruno." Well, he rested him against Leicester, and everyone was saying, "Why didn't we play Bruno?" So it's difficult.
Yeah, spot on. So we're talking about Henderson and De Gea and stuff. That's sort of we moved away from that, but that sort of segues well into the Brighton preview. So United Apollo, what are your thoughts on that game? We haven't played in 2 weeks, so
we should have most of this. We should have quite a lot of our squad fit. There's only questions about a couple of players. I think Martial's all but confirmed out. We'll probably hear that from Ole in his press conference, but I don't think we're missing too many names. Pogba's back pretty much to full fitness now. We should be pretty good in terms of the squad availability. There's only a couple of question marks in Rashford and Greenwood, I think. But yeah, I think we should have enough to get the result against them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'd agree. Dan, what do you think about it?
I'm really looking forward to the Brighton game, actually. I think the international break was great in terms of our personal players, obviously minus the Martial injury. England won all 3 games, which is excellent for confidence. Bruno finally got a bit of a rest, which is nice. Donny got a goal, Pogba back to full fitness. We haven't got many names out. I'm really looking forward to seeing the boys back in action because it feels like it's been a bloody long time. So, with all those things collectively, I think we should play well against them, to be fair. I mean, I know they sort of dominated us when we won 3-2. I don't think we deserved to lose that game, but obviously with no pre-season, all the rest of it. But I think it's a bit different now. Although they are a good side, I don't think the league table I don't think they're deserving of where they are, if that is possible. They play nice football, and Graham Potter's a fantastic coach, I believe. But as Apollo said, I think we've got enough to beat them, and it's sort of crucial that we get points on the board to sort of cement our place in the top 4.
Yeah, fair enough. Josh, anything to add?
They play in a certain way, which probably suits the way we like to play, which is what we revert back to in most big games. So we won't have much time on the coaching pitch, on the field. So it will be a simple plan that we can execute perfectly if we have the right players available. I do feel that there could be an upset here, just because it is Brighton and they are playing particularly well and they need the points. But I think if we win this, then we're all pretty much guaranteed for the top 4. Just hope we have the right players available, and we've had a good international break. So I'm hoping the boys come back buzzing, and a nice little 2-0, 3-0 win would be brilliant.
Worth noting as well in this round of fixtures that Leicester play Manchester City, so someone's dropping points.
Title race is on.
So yeah, I mean, as Dan was saying, they probably don't deserve to be near the relegation on expected goals. I think they're actually like 6th or 7th, something like that. It's mad how unlucky they've been, but it's just the finishing. But then again, the finish has been so bad. Maybe they do deserve to be 17th or wherever they are.
I saw a thing on the Athletic the other day where I think they are actually above us in terms of the percentage of time they spend in the opponent's final third. I think they were above us as well. So it just tells you the kind of football that they play.
Yeah, they do play good football. I think Graham Potter's a really good coach as well. They've been really lucky this season, but yeah, sort of gone through our thoughts. And I don't know if there'll be too much more to add. So we'll go on to the lineups. United Resurgent. What are your thoughts on goalkeeper, the defense?
Yeah, so for me, I would start Dean Henderson. I don't expect Ollie to, but I would start with Henderson in goal. And then with the back four, I would go with our best back four, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, and Luke Shaw. I think there's a chance to rotate in midweek against Granada. I don't think they're a particularly great side. And then we have Spurs the weekend after, so I think this is the time to play your full-strength team.
Yeah, fair enough. Vin, what do you think?
Yeah, I expect us to sort of field a relatively stronger side for this game, given that we've got Granada up next. So I do expect a bit of rotation for that one. And plus Brighton, well, they're on sort of the verge of the relegation zone, so they would be coming out all guns blazing. So it's something that we'll have to look out for. Trossard has been pretty good for them the last few games, so he's the one to watch out for, along with Maupay and Welbeck. Obviously, when he comes on the pitch, he's always like a threat up front. So yeah, I do expect. I want to see Henderson in goal, but I feel David De Gea will come back, get a starting spot. The back four is going to be Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, and Lindelof. The midfield for me, I feel Scott McTominay is not going to play in this one because he's played all 3 games for Scotland during the international break. So I feel he sits this one out. I think it'll be Pogba starting along with maybe Matic. And yeah, I know because Pogba Fred doesn't work for me.
Face there.
Pogba Fred doesn't work for me, honestly. So I have to go with Matic for that one. Bruno starting in the number 10 role. Marcus, I doubt he's going to feature as well for me because he didn't play in the international break at all. So I don't know what the extent of his injury is. So you could expect Dan James probably on the left wing. And then you have Mason Greenwood on the right and Anthony Martial up front.
Martial's probably injured, but Cavani's back, so he can probably.
Cavani's back, so you could have him as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Josh, anything to say about the lineup? What
definitely not.
Both?
Definitely not Matic, that's for sure. Not against that Brighton team. Fred is 100% in my starting lineup. I agree with the Scott McTominay point. He has played 3 games. Will he play against Granada instead? So I'm not really sure just yet. I can't wait for Ollie's press conference, to be fair. De Gea hasn't played a game in about 5 weeks now, so I've got a feeling Dean might start because Brighton have a high shot volume. Their XG is always pretty high. David's not been a great shot stopper this season, as Resurgent has covered on other podcasts. So I'm going to go for Dino 110%, and he would be my number 1 until the end of the season. And De Gea can play against Granada on Thursday because they're not a great team. So that's when he can get his match practice, and then they can start talking if Dean or De Gea starts against Spurs. Good to have Cavani back. We do need pace if we're going to get him behind. So Pogba would have to start because he's the best at getting the ball in behind with Bruno. And I think the team basically picks itself if Rashford and Martial are injured, especially the front line, and just who partners Fred in midfield.
So my thinking is to go with McFred in midfield, and I know a lot of people are going to explode just because I said McFred, but I would go with the McFred pivot, and then I would go with Bruno at the 10 slot, obviously, Cavani up front, and then on the wings, I would play Pogba on the left and Mason Greenwood on the right. I'm assuming Marcus Rashford won't be fit, but Greenwood will be. If Greenwood isn't fit, you could play Dan James there, but I would play Pogba in that kind of wing slot that Ollie's been using more and more this season.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we've had United Apollo's thoughts. What do you think about the lineup? Who would you play?
I feel like it might be wise to take Fred out of the lineup for a game or 2. So I wouldn't be against playing Pogba in midfield with McTominay. Fred hasn't been in the best form recently, and it might be a decent shout to take him out of the team for a little bit. Like that game against Leicester was awful, and I feel like it might be worth making a change.
But then again, he's just had 2 weeks off, so I don't know. Does that sort of serve as the time off that he wanted, or what do you think? He just needs to set out of a game rather than have some time off.
It's not something that I'm saying like he has to be left out. It's just something worth considering that he's not been in the best form, and do we need to make the change? It's just something to consider, really.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything to add? Dan, what do you think?
Oh, the lineup. The back four definitely picks itself. You've got to go full strength for reasons. Resurgent mentioned, Tellers can play in midweek, and Bailly if he's fit as well. I think the biggest questions lie in the goalkeeper, in which I would start Dean Henderson, and the centre of midfield. I think there's obviously several options that you can go with, and it's quite nice having the options that we do with Pogba being back, because obviously, some games you play McBride, others Pogba and Matic. So I think it's sort of Ollie's got a decision to make in terms of which of the two partnerships that he wants to play. I'd probably go McFred. I would for this game, and obviously Bruno in 10. I'd like to see Dan James start, given the goal we scored in midweek. He should come back full of confidence, and I think he plays well on the left. Probably Cavani up top, and then Greenwood on the right. That would be my team.
Okay, I think we'll end it there then. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've made it to the end of the podcast, like, comment, and subscribe. So it does really help us out, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks.
Quickly, do you want to get a shout out for predictions?
Yeah, true. I think 2-1 United with Sergio. What do you think?
3-1 win.
Josh?
I'm going to go 3-0 and Amad Diallo's first Premier League goal.
Vin?
I'm going for a 2-1 United win.
Dan?
I'm going to go 3-2, mirror the game from earlier in the season.
And United Apollo?
We won, United win.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.